Well, moving on, Laurent Berstecker joins me now in the studio to take a look at today's papers in our press review. And Laurent, let's start here in France, where the debate over a potential third lockdown is very much dominating headlines.
Well, that's right, Thomas. It's the question that's on everyone's minds at the moment in France. Will there be a third lockdown? Is it unavoidable? And let's start by looking at La Dépêche du Midi, which echoes the words of Prime Minister Jean Castex, who's still saying no to another lockdown for now. But there are hints that this may change if the situation doesn't improve soon, according to this newspaper. Moving on to another French daily, Libération, which says the government is still right now in an observation phase, meaning that while it's opposed to another lockdown, it's closely monitoring the situation, especially surrounding this new British variant, before announcing any potentially drastic measures such as another lockdown. Instead of new restrictions, the article tells us the government is banking on increased testing for children and on reinforcing the country's vaccination drive. Le Figaro, meanwhile, another French daily, asks whether it's time for France to reopen its museums after Italy did so earlier this week, as well as Spain before that. And finally, with the winter break beginning this weekend and restrictions set to remain in place, Le Parisien headlines on another question that's on a lot of French people's minds. What are we supposed to do during the holidays? And for now, the options are looking quite limited.
Now, meanwhile, Laurent, a 3-week lockdown has been imposed on the French overseas island of Mayotte. What are the papers saying about that?
Well, Le Journal de Mayotte, which is a local newspaper, there interviewed a director of a local medical center who says the lockdown is actually extremely justified, as the situation there is looking critical and the health system is having trouble keeping up. A 3-week lockdown that could potentially be extended.
Okay, let's move on now to Lebanon for our next story, where the press has been reacting to the killing of the prominent thinker and activist Lokman Slim.
Well, that's right. And this killing has been making waves and even creating reactions here in France. And we see it with the French newspaper La Croix, which published an article on Lokman Slim. And the newspaper is arguing that this assassination has brought back the ghost of political killings in Lebanon, which used to be extremely frequent, especially in the early 2000s. Now, moving on to the Lebanese press, Lebanese paper L'Orient Le Jour tries to make sense of this killing. And while the author here says suspicion has immediately fallen on Hezbollah and Iran, of which Lokman Slim was a prominent critic. However, this is still a hypothesis, and we shouldn't jump to conclusions until more elements are made public. However, the author argues this could be a message of intimidation by Hezbollah, an attempt to silence critics and the opposition at a time where the party is at its most powerful in Lebanon, but also has been facing a lot of critics in recent months.
Okay, Laurent, let's move on now to Israel, and a country where the recent GameStop trading frenzy has apparently been making waves.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's been making waves all over the world, but particularly in Israel, as a newspaper Haaretz tells us, what it calls the Robin Hood phenomenon has led to a 44% increase in new trading accounts in the country over the past year. The paper says the COVID pandemic has, of course, played an important role, as it left many Israelis with excess time and money on their hands, and has created a new generation of young investors with little capital, but who are looking for different kinds of investment. And while the author argues this may not be a fleeting phenomenon, as some people have speculated, but rather a product of our times, something which we should get used to. And that's also partly due to the gamification of these trading apps like Robinhood, which makes you feel like you're playing a game of sorts.
Now, there is a sense, Laurent, that this recent trading frenzy has been a bit random, and maybe some investors are trying to game the system.
Well, there's many ways to look at that, and one is certainly to see this entire thing as a giant trolling exercise, and especially when you look at the latest trend in cryptocurrency, the Dogecoin, which is literally a meme, and which Elon Musk has shown recently that even memes can rise to glory. He tweeted a couple of tweets in support of Dogecoin last night, and that sent the currency rising by more than 50% over overnight. A first tweet by Elon Musk read, Dogecoin is the people's crypto. Another one, no highs, no low, only Doge. And my personal favorite, which didn't really need any words other than this glorious photoshopped reference to the Lion King. As often, it's hard to tell whether Musk is joking or not, but once again, this goes to show the financial potential of memes in the modern internet age.
Okay, Laurent Berstecker with the latest press review. Thank you very much. Now, I'm back after the break with more world news here on France 24. And in the next 30 minutes, we'll also be bringing you our Focus report, which today looks at how Thailand is helping more and more workers set up their laptops in the sun rather than in their sitting rooms during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Do stay with us.